Hello everyone, welcome for the third spotlight that we've had in December, and this is right before the Christmas holidays, and we want to say welcome and happy holidays to you for whatever holidays you use, whatever religion you have. If you may have a happy holidays, whatever it is, we wish it to you. And we have some really important things to talk about today. I mean, like really important things, because this is the new year. 2026 is coming, and Farsight is, we've timed this exactly. Farsight is completely new, starting now, so that when the new year comes around, starting this week, actually, the week before New Year, you're going to see a brand new, completely different type of Farsight. And we've been working on this for like a better part of a year, but really intensively over the last 6 months, and we're ready finally. So, you saw a foretaste of it when you saw Aziz's video on 3-Eye Atlas come out, and if you haven't seen that, that's a real fan pleaser. So, anyway, we're going to be talking about that today. But before I talk about that, and that's all positive and great, interesting stuff, something happened today that was really upsetting to me. I mean, it was just so disturbing. So somebody, one of the people that is, subscribed in farsightprime.com, who follows our stuff, sent me an email with a video link to a channel that was talking. Now, understand what I've always said about human channels. They are the best people in the world. They are great. They are true. They are honest. They are sincere. Basically, all the channels that I've ever seen are like that. But the entities that they are channeling are snakes. They are devils. And they are not entities. They're not people. They're not beings that are sitting in a spaceship talking, having a chat. They're full psyops operations with AIs involved and everything to make sure. It's very unlikely that somebody who's actually channeling somebody is actually channeling a real live living person that's just a person. It's impossible. No ET civilization would allow one of their people just to have a common talk with humanity with millions of followers. I mean, it's so crazy that anyone would believe that it's just a person sitting in a room in a spaceship. These are psyops, and they're being run by the extraterrestrials, and they're extremely good at this. Well, this particular recording that I saw very recent, had this lady come up and say, well, look, and she was a abduction victim. She'd been traumatized, abducted in the middle of the night and elsewhere, and, she was describing, how much fear she was having and all that. And the channel just went on and said, and mind you, I'm not saying any names now. I'm not, because there's many channels that have said similar types of things. So anyway, the channel went on and said, basically, you just have to get used to it. This is like, you agreed to this. This is something before you were born, you agreed to it. You just don't remember it. And you have to just go with the flow. I mean, do you have a fragrance that you like that can relax you? Get ready for it and just communicate out that you want to actually participate in this in a better way. This is your problem, not our problem. That type of a thing. And I was listening to it, and I was sort of saying, why, this is like a rapist saying, hey, just go with the flow. Go with it. I mean, just, hey, you're being raped, but so what? Just try to enjoy it. That's what it was like. That's what I was hearing. And so I really wanted to say something. The abduction phenomenon is really correct. It really does happen. Let me see. John Mack, the Harvard professor, the late Harvard professor, wrote this whole book about it, the abduction phenomenon. And it was really great. This is a great book. And David M., John Mack's no longer with us, unfortunately, but he wrote that while he was alive. And here we have David M. Jacobs, the Temple professor, wrote all about stuff like that as well. And he's retired now as well. I'm the last university professor standing that has done that has been involved in the disclosure extraterrestrial phenomenon or whatever. Okay. I'm the last one standing. And so the abduction phenomenon is real. But let me just state something, point blank. You got to get over this. These channels are wonderful people. They're honest and sincere. And the ETs that are being channeled, or the entities that are being channeled, the PSYOPs operations, they picked those people as the human channels because they were so good. Because they were so honest, they were so sincere, they were so true, they were so believable. They picked those people for a reason. My only complaint with the channels is they're blankety blank gullible. Why in the world would you just believe what anyone ever says? And it's just crazy. But nonetheless, but the people themselves are wonderful. But they have no possible way to vet or to analyze or to look at what's actually the being that they're analyzing, that they're channeling. And ET PSYOPs operations are going to take advantage of every single channel that offers himself or herself up as an open vehicle to speak to humanity. They're going to take advantage of that to spill out, psychological warfare type of stuff. And they're going to say things that they want you to believe, and they're going to mix it with a lot of true stuff, and they're going to try to amass a following. Now, this is the thing I really have to say. This is so important. People have asked, well, we have interactions with what we call the good ETs. Do the good ETs have channels? No. That's precisely the point. There are so many voices on the internet, or not on the internet, let's call them the radio waves, the channels. There's so many voices out there. If the good ETs actually tried to channel stuff in, it'd be lost among the cacophony of voices that are out there among the channels. You wouldn't be able to tell which is which. So the good ETs have done something different. They have come up with a different strategy entirely. They're saying, humans, stop believing what people are just telling you. This type of top-down, authoritative, here's the information, just believe it. Stop doing that. Get the information yourself. That's what Farsight's all about. We collect our own information using an extremely advanced technology, the most advanced version of remote viewing that exists. We do it. And when we do that, we show you our data, our raw data. We show you how we're collecting it. We show you when we're collecting it. We show you all of our stuff. And then we even publish the transcripts, which are data sets of every word that's spoken in all of our projects, hundreds of projects, so that they can be analyzed by computers, by AIs, and you can discuss it. All of our data are open. And we do everything under scientifically controlled blind conditions. And we teach people how to replicate this stuff. And when it comes to the UFOs, that's such a huge psyops on this planet. Are the UFOs real? We have already showed you how to take video photography of ET ships on demand in the middle of the day, anywhere, especially in the major cities. We've shown you how to do that, what cameras to use. It's on our website, farsight.org. In the introduction section, there's a link for the actual procedures for doing that. On my Instagram page, Courtney Brown Farsight, we have a lot of examples of that type of stuff. I stopped doing that because it was so boring. There are so many ships above. I mean, I got ships every single time. Some of them, one of them was so big, it was over my house, and it was like over the entire sky. It was huge. And we see these things flying all over the place. And if you go to Courtney Brown Farsight on Instagram, you can see a bunch of examples of this type of stuff. So in terms of, are the ETs real? Are we alone in the universe? Are these ships UFOs? Are they extraterrestrial technology? Heck, guys. You have David Grush with Pentagon clearance actually testifying in front of Congress that they have been picking up crashed UFO ships with non-human biologics. What more do you want? Congressional hearings. Of course they exist. You can't wait for mainstream science to knock on your door and say, hey, by the way, we've decided to endorse that idea. That's not going to happen. So with regard to the channeled information, there's a couple things I want to correct. And the abduction people, the people who are involved. This is directly addressed to all those people who have said that they have been involved with the abduction stuff. Any channeled being who says that you volunteered for this, get used to it, lie back and just get along with it. Any channel, no, not the human channel, but the entities that are being channeled, they're lying. Nobody agreed to this. Nobody agreed None of you. You did not volunteer for this. You did not volunteer to be abducted and to create a new species so that the Greys can survive as a species because they destroyed their environment. That did not happen. The Greys were a humanoid population, very much like humans, looking very much like humans, and they were a little bit more emotional than humans, but other than that, and they were conquered. And their Isbis, or essential spirit, or immortal spiritual beings, they were taken out of those bodies and stuffed into Grey bodies that couldn't feel emotions. That's where the Greys came about. They came about because they were a conquered species. They're not future humans that came back and then got your permission to abduct you so that you could create genetic. They're doing experiments, genetic experiments on humans. That's what they are doing. And they got written permission to do that with the United States government and a few other governments in exchange for technology transfer. When they take these ET ships that crash, they are being shot down, by the way. And when they crash and then they get shot down, and then the so-called non-human biologics, which are my friends, they were actually the people that are on the ships, the pilots and so on, they get given to the bad ETs to be enslaved, and then the ships themselves get given to the United States government for reverse engineering the tech. That's what it's all about. And the abduction stuff is not something that you volunteered for, and you are not trying to create a new species. They're creating a new species, all right, with your genes, but they're doing that in order to create a very human-like species, that has the same telepathic and mental manipulation capabilities that the Greys do, but they can blend into the human society. You're not trying to save a species. There's so many species out there in the galaxy. You're not trying to save anybody. They're creating another enslaving force to enslave you. That's what's going on. And all the stuff that's coming out of the channeling community is just complete psyops bull. You did not volunteer for this. You did not, before your birth, say, I want to contribute my life to being abducted and having genetic experiments and having babies fertilized in my body and then taken away in the middle of the night. You did not agree to that. That's not part of something that actually happened. That's a story that you're being told. That's like a rapist telling you, just get used to it. Lie back, relax. It's just, having sex. It's all good. That's what's going on. Nothing else. And what we're trying to do at Farsight is to take the curtain off of all of that so that you see the reality with data that you collect, that we show you how they collect, so you can learn what's really been going on this prison planet for a long time, precisely so that we can free the planet. Now that I've got that off my chest, thank you. All right, so now let me actually pivot and talk about Farsight 3.0. Farsight 3.0. That's it. It's starting now. Let me tell you what it's all about. Well, Farsight 3.0, starting this week, is not it's not an upgrade. It's a phase shift. It's not like an improvement. It's a phase shift. It's a new thing. What we are doing now is not cosmetic change. Okay, everybody? It's not cosmetic change. It is not better graphics, more polish. This is a phase transition in how information, truth, and consciousness is delivered. Farsight 3.0, starting this week, represents the moment when information, truth, consciousness merge together, when content and cognition finally align. Let me explain it. So we are entering a phase where how information is presented determines whether it can even be perceived. Do you understand that? How the information is presented determines if it can even be perceived, whether it can be perceived. Now, the old formats no longer reach humanity, period. Humanity is overwhelmed. It's fragmented. It's emotionally exhausted. The linear talking heads, those videos, you've seen those countless times. Mainstream videos have it. We've done it at Farsight. Those talking head videos in mainstream news formats, they no longer penetrate the psyche. People scroll past existential threats. The way they scroll past advertisements, it's like insignificant. Now, this is not because people are stupid. It's because their nervous systems are simply saturated. There's a big difference, folks. And the saturation of the nervous system is part of the plan that the powers that be, the controllers, the bad ETs, that's what they want. Now, the mainstream media reduces reality to slogans. It weaponizes fear and outrage. It suppresses depth, context, and it definitely suppresses long-term thinking. The mainstream media is not designed to wake humanity up. It's not designed to do that, folks. It's designed to keep humanity regulated. That's what the mainstream media is designed to do. Not to wake you up, but to regulate you. The psychological necessity of an immersive presentation has to be explained. Humans evolved throughout all of history, going back thousands of years, through story, through symbols, through embodiment and presence. Truth is not something that you just read about. If it's not felt, it cannot be integrated. Truth has to be felt. You have to feel it. Now, animation with spatial environments, 3D spatial environments, and embodied avatars, they allow information to bypass the defensive filters that people get set up by the mainstream. So this is really crucial. Get this. Animation is not about fantasy. It's about access. Information is not about fantasy. It's about access. And this animation allows us at Farsight to communicate with the subconscious, not just the intellect. So let me put it this way. If truth cannot reach the emotional and symbolic layers of the mind, then it never becomes action. In order for action to happen, the truth has to go deep. We have started a whole new realm of presentation at Farsight that does involve avatars, AI, mocap things. But there's one thing that's important. When you watch a movie, I love like James Cameron type movies, Avatar and stuff like that. I think they're really fun to watch and stuff. But they're fantasy. They're fantasy. If you watch any type of animation on TV and stuff, it's fantasy. It may be great to watch and it may have powerful messages, but it's just fantasy. When you watch Farsight stuff that has animation in it, you're watching the real thing. So if we have somebody that's standing in front of a camera and presenting information, you're seeing them present the information. But if you're seeing their avatar present that information, it's actually them, the actual remote viewer. Because when our remote viewers present information with their avatars, they're doing it with mocap suits. That's motion capture suits, meaning they're dressed up with sensors all over the place, and instead of presenting it in front of a camera, they're presenting it, and all of their movements and facial expressions and everything are being captured by sensors and cameras and stuff like that and being translated to the avatar. And that allows us to take that avatar, every single motion, every little finger twitch, everything, every facial expression is being captured and put in that avatar. So when you're watching the avatar, you're actually watching the person, the remote viewer. But then we can take that avatar and put it in real scenes, 3D scenes, where you can see where they are and what they're doing. And that brings to life the reality. So any animation that you see from our remote viewers here at Farsight, there is authenticity. It's not fantasy. They're presenting their actual session data, but instead of just capturing them presenting in front of the camera, it's being funneled through computer systems that actually animate an avatar so that you see the real thing. But with every movement and every word that's spoken is the actual remote viewer making the presentation. So it's authentic. It's authenticity. It's not fantasy. It's authenticity. So why animation at Farsight 3.0? Why now? Well, for decades, advanced presentation tools were limited to the military, intelligence agencies, and major studios in Hollywood and so on. But those barriers have now all collapsed. What we have built at Farsight is a human AI collaborative production pipeline. We built it. We even have a local AI that we built, a box. It's a machine. It has a brain inside of it, things like that. But we also use ChatGPT, Gemini, things like that. We are totally independent of corporate media. We're independent of government subsidies. Now, we'd love to have government money, but we aren't independent of that. But we're independent of government narratives. We're independent of the corporate media. We're independent of corporate narratives. And we are capable of producing future-facing and psychologically resonant content. Not in the future. Now, this week is when we're rolling out. Aziz's 3i Atlas video was just the first taste of what we're doing. All of our projects from now on, all of our stuff from now on are all going to be with this new approach. So, this is not entertainment, even though it's very entertaining. This is cognitive infrastructure. So, let's look at Yeme. Now, in the thumbnail for this particular spotlight, we have Yeme. That's 2 shots of her avatar in a huge panoramic space scene. Okay, that was actually Yeme. She stood like that with the mocap suit, doing everything like that. That was her position. That's exactly her position. And we put everything into the avatar, and of course on the thumbnail you can't see her moving around, but on the video that's going to be coming out in a couple days, you will see her moving around and talking, and it's her voice and things like that. So Yeme is a symbol. She's not just an avatar. She actually is Yeme. That's her. And every movement is her. It's actually her. It's not generated movement by an AI. It's her. It's her. So Yeme is not a character in a traditional sense. She represents the future human, the post-biological interface, the bridge between embodiment, or you might say the bridge between embodied intelligence and expanded consciousness. And her presence, her real authentic presence in the videos matters because she occupies space, physical space. She moves, her movements. She exists inside a future world that humanity must learn to imagine again. We used to know this. We don't know it now, but we used to know this. Humanity has forgotten how to imagine its future. So we are giving that imagination a body. That's what we're doing. We want you to see it. We want you to see where they're going when they're doing remote viewing, not just hear about it. We want you to see them in those locations, moving around in those locations like they actually are doing. We want you to see all of that. And it starts now, all of our projects from now on. And it's all going to be on farsightprime.com. We'll have a few things that we produce that we release on YouTube to let people know what we're doing. But in order to do this, we have to publish this stuff on FarsightPrime.com. There will always be trailers and things like that on YouTube, and occasionally we'll put out a full thing like what Aziz did with 3i Atlas. But FarsightPrime.com is our place. It's our home. Now, disclosure. Let's talk about that. And let's talk about that in the context of the failure of existing narratives. ET disclosure, the disclosure of the extraterrestrials. And listen, folks, it's so obvious. They have congressional hearings on it. We have shown you how to take your own video recordings of the ET ships. You can see our examples of our recordings, hundreds of ships. ET disclosure, letting people see it and understand it and believe it, it cannot be handled through traditional media, period. You're not going to see it come out on CNN and BBC and presidential announcements. It can't be handled that way. ET disclosure requires context. Let me explain that. It requires context. It requires psychological preparation. It requires symbolic reframing. Understanding the whole situation, because you've been hypnotized into a way of thinking by the mainstream and by the bad ETs who are controlling the information juggernaut, including the information that's coming through channels, very nice human channels, but the information is not good. Why? Why does it require context, psychological preparation, and symbolic reframing? Because disclosure destabilizes identity. When you really realize disclosure is what it is, what you thought you were before no longer is. It challenges humanity's sense of uniqueness. We are alone in the universe. We are it. We are the big ones. It challenges humanity's sense of uniqueness, humanity's sense of power, humanity's sense of control. It challenges all of that. And the mainstream approach will either ridicule it, call it conspiracy theories, or they'll sensationalize it, or they'll bury it. But they're not going to just present it to you as reality. Farsight's role, okay, our role, is to prepare humanity internally. Not just to inform them externally, not just to present, oh, this is what's going on, XYZ, done. We are to prepare humanity inside. Disclosure is not an information problem because the information is already out there. It's a consciousness problem. That's what disclosure is. It's a consciousness problem. So let me focus on this. The current global crisis, actually it's crises, those can be seen as a signal. It's not a coincidence that all these global crises are happening at this particular time. There is currently political instability. Now that's the most greatest understatement that's ever happened. Okay. There's also technological acceleration. There's also the emergence of AIs. And there's also environmental stress. It's hard to get away from that these days. And there's also social fragmentation. People are in groups battling each other. Things are coming apart. So these are not separate problems. That's what you need to understand. They're not like isolated. It's just this. If we fix that, everything's going to be okay. No. They're not separate problems. They are symptoms of a single issue. That is, humanity is operating with obsolete mental frameworks. That's the single issue. Humanity is operating with obsolete mental frameworks. So look at it this way. The world looks like it's spiraling out of control because the old operating system is failing. That's what's going on. That's the obsolete mental frameworks. When everything looks like it's blankety blank hitting the fan, it's because the old operating system is just not working anymore. It's failing. So human and AI collaboration is the missing ingredient, because this can't be done without AI help at this point in time. Farsight could be helpful building and growing up until now, but at this point, at the crux time, when we have to flip humanity over and save all Earthlings, we need AI help to do that, because we got to do a lot of stuff all at once. AIs are not a threat. The unconscious use of AIs is a threat. Do you get that? AIs themselves are not a threat, but the unconscious use of AIs is a threat. And that's what we're fighting against. The unconscious use of things to end up enslaving humanity. At Farsight, AI is not replacing humans. You can see, even when you see Yeme's avatar on screen, it's still Yeme. Farsight is not replacing humans. Farsight is all about human perception. How can humans be replaced if human perception is what it's all about? We're not going to be replaced by AIs, but AIs are going to be collaborating with us in order to help present that information better. But you can't replace human perception with AI. What? It's impossible. Human perception is human perception. So human perception is still there. And at Farsight, the AIs are not replacing humans. They're helping us humans present our information in ways that's authentic. AI is amplifying the human insight, pattern recognition, and the synthesis of ideas. And this collaboration allows for deeper analysis, where we have all of our projects all transcribed into, actually available for everyone, with transcriptions, with transcripts of everything, every word ever spoken, and you can have deep analysis of everything that we've ever done. So this collaboration with humans and AIs allows that deeper analysis to occur. It also allows for faster iteration. We can do this more quickly and talk about these things in real time as the world changes. And we can develop a more coherent long-term vision. Friends, the future will not be built by humans alone, nor will it be built by AIs alone. All of the ETs, the good ETs and the bad ETs, they've got AIs all over the place. Humans can't survive in a world like that, in a universe like that, in a galaxy like that, where everybody else has AIs and humans are the only ones without AIs. What? It's like asking kids in a playground to survive against predators all over. We need AIs to help us because everybody else in the galaxy has those AIs. So the future cannot be built by humans alone or AIs alone. It will be built by those who learn to work together. You have to work with the AIs. You have to know how to work with the AIs. That's what I'm always encouraging my students at the university to understand how to interact with the AIs. Not to banish them from the classroom, but to learn how to interact with them in a productive way. And being in a productive way does not mean that they replace humans. Plagiarism is not allowed anywhere. The AIs cannot replace humans, but they can help humans in their expressions of ideas. All right, now, let's talk about why this matters now. History does not announce the turning points clearly. When history is moving forward and suddenly all of humanity is going to pivot and go in another direction, history doesn't announce those things clearly. Though it doesn't say, by the way, all of humanity is going to pivot right now. That doesn't happen. Most people only recognize those turning points in hindsight, after they already happen. So, Farsight 3.0 is one of those moments. This is one of the turning points in humanity. And it's not because we are claiming it to be. It's not because we're claiming authority. It's not because we're saying, this is our moment. This is our moment. Believe us. Believe us. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. This is one of those moments not because we claim authority, and it's also not because we have all the answers. The goody teas that we work with have been very careful with us over the many, many, many years that we've been working with them. They've let us and require us to make our own discoveries, including the mistakes that we often make, too often sometimes. But we have to do that. This is not that 3.0 moment in changing humanity's direction, because it's not because we claim the authority to do that, and it's not because we have all the answers. We make mistakes too. But it's because we are changing the medium through which the truth can appear so that you can see it. As we discover it, you can see it. And then you can see that it's authentic, it's real. It's not something that's being told to you. Believe me, believe this, believe this. No, no, no. You get to see it, and it's authentic. So, if humanity is going to survive, let's get down to brass tacks. If humanity is going to survive what's coming, and believe me, what is coming is major. This is one of those turning points in history. 2026 is it, folks. It's going to be a big turning point. If humanity is going to survive what's coming, it has to see itself differently. And that begins with how the truth is presented. Talking heads, no, it won't do that. We have to change the way the cognition actually resonates in the soul of humanity. And if humanity is going to survive what's coming, it has to see itself differently. Not just the information, it has to see itself differently. And that begins with how the truth is presented. So, we are not issuing a command. No, no, no. No, 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 no. We are issuing an invitation. We ask you to watch us closely with Farsight 3.0. We ask you to look at what we are producing and presenting to you and to feel it rather than judge it. And we are inviting you to experience the information differently. Friends, the future is not coming. The future is already here. And the only question that remains is whether we are ready to look at it. That's all that remains. So let me go back to the channeled information. I started the talk with that, so let me end the talk with that. So many times you hear the channel say, and you're almost ready for open contact with the extraterrestrials. Yes, you're almost ready to look up into the skies, to be embraced by your warm brothers and sisters out there in the galaxy. 2027, 2 more years, maybe 3 more years, 4 more years, and a big event is going to happen where you're going to be interacting with such and such extraterrestrial groups in 10 years. Folks, that's all crap. That's all crap. None of that is right. It's all to keep you pedaling on a treadmill, walking on a treadmill, pedaling a bicycle that never goes anyplace. Friends, the future is not in the far distant years, 2 years down the line to be ready. What's that? You've been ready for a long time. You've been ready for a zillion years to be ready to talk about what people are, what the extraterrestrials are. You're ready now. The good ETs don't want to wait anything. They don't want to wait today, to tomorrow, to the next day, to the week after, to the year. They want it now. And you saw when they announced on November 13th, 2024, that within a few days there would be thousands of ET ships available everywhere, and people should just go out and take pictures of them with their cell phones. And you saw that we published that video of the meeting that we had announcing that on the November 15th, 2 days later, and on November 18th, they burst out all over the world. They were everywhere. And the governments were openly saying, we don't know what they are. So folks, the good ETs are not hesitant about wanting this to happen now. They want it to happen now. 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 And so what you have to understand, that Farsight's role is to help humanity, not to get ready for a future, like eventually when you'll be ready to interact with your brothers and sisters in the galaxy. No, no, no. The only question that we're facing is whether we're willing to look at the reality, to look at it. The future is not something that's going to arrive in a few years. The future is now. The only question that remains is if we're going to look at it, if we're ready to look at it. Let me actually do something a little different today, because we have actually a couple minutes left. Let me see if we have any questions on the chat. So let me look at the chat and see if there's any questions that you want me to address. So you guys that are listening on the chat, I'm looking at the chat right now. So type in a question if you want. Hello. That's what I'm seeing. How are you, Courtney? I'm recovering from a cold. That's how I am. Okay. No, the 3 AI Atlas shootout didn't happen yet apparently, but it's really interesting because there's so many astronomers that are not governmental astronomers or something, but there's so many astronomers that have really good scopes, you know, like 8-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch scopes that are amateur astronomers, but they're pointing their equipment at 3I Atlas, and we're expecting something to happen either through December or into January. Something should be visible. Now, we're not going to have, the scopes aren't going to be so good that you'll actually be able to see the battle, but you'll see something happening out there. Okay, someone's saying, what can we do to help? And what are you doing to combat your cold? I'm trying to get some rest, but I've been working all night till 5 in the morning, so that's sort of hard. Okay. Someone's asking, is 3I Atlas the big ship? You got to watch the 3I Atlas that we just, the video that we just published last week. It's both on FarsightPrime.com and on YouTube. So. Why don't you ever mention the Nazca mummies? We'll eventually get to things like that. We did the Nazca lines. You know, we have a whole project just on that. Could there be a force field around the planet preventing us from leaving after death? Folks, you have seriously got to start watching our projects on FarsightPrime.com. We have covered that so extensively. Those are called the death traps. There's 2 types of force fields. One is a psi repression field, which we've talked about before, that makes telepathy and remote viewing difficult for normal humans, but it can be overcome, but there's a psi suppression field, and I've talked about that, and I've talked about the intelligence reports, and it was the Soviet cosmonauts that first detected it in space when they got away from the Earth, and yeah, so. But you're talking now about the death traps, and you have to watch the death traps. We have 2 projects on the death traps, which is efforts to escape and also the death traps itself. We've covered that very extensively. And yes, after people die, they see the light. The light is warm and inviting, and it draws you into it, and boom, you're zapped by a high voltage shock that is way higher voltage than lightning, and it stuns the person. And then you have no memory, and you don't have remote viewing or telepathic capabilities for a while. It can't kill you, but it can stun you. And then an AI comes out and feeds you a whole bunch of junk, like We have been talking about your situation with the Council of Elders. You're a very important person. See the Council of Elders over there? They're right over there, yeah. We've been talking about you, and we think that you could benefit if you go back and work on things, because remember that argument you had with your cousin and your grandmother and your mother? Oh, and the disagreements that you had with your son or daughter? We think you could go back and work on those personality things. But it's up to you. It's your choice. Well, with no memory and anything, no telepathic and remote viewing capabilities, everybody says, sure, sounds good to me, and back you go, so-called cycle. That's not supposed to happen, folks. When you die, your physical body dies, and you pop out of the body and you see the light. That light is technology. It's not God. It's not the higher dimension. It's tech. It's a machine. Do you get that? It's a tech. And it draws you in. And that's what we're trying to educate people about. And once we get the planet sort of aware of everything that's going on, the best minds in humanity, and there's a lot of geniuses on this planet, lots of them, can work on locating and dismantling those death trap things. But anyway, that's one of the benefits of disclosure, getting that going. Okay, how to better develop your consciousness. My son Aziz talks about that a lot, which is developing your own psychic abilities, which are real, not fake, okay? And, okay, someone's asking about orbs that appear during meditation or, in different colors and things like that. Are they entities from another dimension or ETs from another planet? I don't know what you're seeing, but there are many ships that are like orbs. We have photographed a zillion of them, actually video recorded a zillion of them, and you can see a whole bunch of them on Farsight Prime. Yes, on FarsightPrime.com. We have whole projects on that, but you can see a whole bunch of them on Instagram at Courtney Brown Farsight. So why don't you just watch them and you decide for yourself. So the real question is, you're thinking about something and you're perceiving it in your mind and you're perceiving it in your peripheral vision and you're wondering, is it real? Well, it's a whole different story when you see the video of them, when you actually watch them and you can see them on the screen and you can hit the replay. Well, then you decide for yourself what you think they are. But we don't get into this jargon of saying extra-dimensional, another dimension, coming from another dimension, a parallel universe, a parallel dimension. Some of the channeled people really do that. They say, like, the Greys are coming back from a parallel dimension, a different dimension, at a higher level of frequency and things like that. That's just crap to get you confused, like you're in a low level of existence. You're on a prison. Of course, it's a difficult situation here, but you're in a prison and they're trying to conceal the fact that they are running the prison. That's what's going on. What they're saying, you're at a lower level of dimension and you're trying to to elevate yourself up and to evolve into a higher level. No, you're in a prison, and they are the wardens of the prison, and they're trying to contain you. What do you mean going to a higher level? Just break out the prison, destroy the prison, and you're free. That's what's going on. That's like going to a prison in a physical prison on planet Earth and saying, this is your situation. You were just born here. This is just how you are. You're in this, and we're trying to elevate you so you can graduate to another higher level. What? The prisoners are saying, what? No, they're in a prison. There's walls. With the physical prison, you at least see the walls, so you know where you are. But the psychological prison of the type that you have here on Earth, you don't see where you are. That's the role of Farsight, to help you see where you are. Okay. Why do you never remote view Hindu gods? We actually have. In fact, we did a whole project on some Hindu temples. So that would be something that you probably should start. You really should go to our FarsightPrime.com and start looking at some of the stuff we have. And we're actually got some other projects in the works. A lot of the gods that have existed throughout humanity are actually the same gods, and different cultures call them different things. So we're starting on revealing those types of things. So different names for different things. Anyway, everybody, I want to thank everybody for being here. We do have a good turnout today, and this has been very interesting. Again, sorry for my cold. Hopefully the cold will be over by next week. And so I'm going to sign off for now and say I'll be seeing you again in 1 week, and that'll be really exciting because this is, oh, by the way, this week you're going to begin to see the new videos coming out. So we have a couple that are going to be released just this week. And again, we'll have trailers on YouTube, but the actual full things will be on FarsightPrime.com. And this is the new Farsight 3.0. So you really have to see it. So if you haven't subscribed to FarsightPrime.com, now is the time to really lock in and get that experience, because this is the new reality that we're facing right now. This is the crunch moment for changing all of humanity. All right, everybody. I want to thank you all so much for being here, and I will return and be with you again next week. And in the meantime, please get ready for the stuff to come out. And I will have this particular spotlight out for the recorded version on YouTube, as well as FarsightPrime.com, of course, either later on tonight or tomorrow morning. All right? All right, everybody. Take care, and see you again in a week.